Welcome in everyone to my first video, and for this first video I'm trying to start off with somewhat of a bang, good old rip or roar if you will. So if you like this content, please give it a like button, a click, drop a follow and get some more story time. So with that being said, let's get into this. So this was back in 2010, 2011. I just finished my first year of school and I was heading back home to visit my grandma for a little while in my hometown, about a couple hours away. So I'm not sure if I had a break from school or maybe it was just a weekend. Either way, I'm driving back to my house and I'm thinking about jumping on some Black Ops 1 zombies, maybe some StarCraft 2 because that came out maybe about a year or two before, and see what the roommates were up to. So in our living situation, I had 4 roommates and it was a 5 bedroom, 3 or 2.5 bath house with 5 people, including me. I pull up to my place, I get out of the car, walk up to the front door, pop the keys in. When I go in, I'm noticing one of my roommates, we'll call him Manny from now on. He's laying on the couch, and when I first see him, I notice his eyes are bugged out, like pretty bad. I'm like dude saw a heinous war crime. It was pretty bad. So I take a second, I shift off of his like POW eyes, and I see he's wrapped up in like 10 blankets. And I ask him like, yo, your eyes are looking a little bugged out. Did you see something? Did something happen? He says, well, man, I tried acid for the first time yesterday and kind of had a bad trip. And I was like, oh shit, man, what, did you take too much or something? And he tells me, he's like, hey, and we'll call this friend Ace from now on. He's like, yeah, no, I took some of Ace's stuff and, I only had like 1 or 2 doses. Now, as soon as he said it was from our friend Ace, I knew that boy was in trouble. See, me and Ace, we were a little bit closer friends before I had moved into this new place, before I even known Manny. So Ace also was one of those kids that were like better off. Like he didn't need to, sell anything or whatever, but he did just, for the sport, like his parents were well off. They would just supported him really if he wanted to. Like they were cool like that for him. I think he was just, a bit of an aficionado, if you will. So he always delivered like top-notch stuff, whatever you got from him. So anyways, back to the main point. He tells me, only had like 1 or 2 hits. So Manny kind of explains the story, like what went down, from his perspective. He proceeds to like kind of tell me, he's like, yeah, we went over, couple blocks over to some friends that we regularly hung out with. It was another house with a few guys we chilled and partied with, and there were like a group of others that were going to be there, and they're going to use like the home base as their house to like trip and everything. So he tells me he takes his dose and an hour goes by. He says he starts feeling it kick in. He starts feeling really weird directionally is what he told me. They were inside, but it felt like he was standing on a hill. So it's like his balance was being thrown off by this. So his directional perception was just out of whack, and it kind of sent him in a little panic from what he was kind of saying. So anyway, they're chilling for a little bit and they decide to they start trying to play some hacky sack inside. And he says it started kind of bug him out a little, and there's some other girls and guys there, but he said he kind of freaked out on them a little bit and he was just kind of left it at that. He also told me that he started really missing his dog. He didn't bring him because I guess he didn't want to be responsible for the dog, while he was at a different place while he's tripping. And so he kind of wraps up the rest of the story, said, someone brought him back. He just said he wasn't feeling it. And, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, well, shit, man, just try to relax. I'm going to go play some games and kick at my room for a little while. So I go in my room and, dude, the first thing I do is whip out my phone and shoot a text to Ace, like, immediately. Within, like, 0.5 seconds, like, as soon as it's sent, like, I get a couple of texts back, like, immediately from Ace, and he says, dude, he wigged out. He was fucking wigging, bro. He then immediately, like, calls me, and I tell him, yeah, he already told me he had a little bit of a bad trip. And dude, he cut me off. He's like, no, dude, he lost it more than anyone I've ever seen. So I start thinking like, oh shit. And Ace goes, yeah, about an hour after I got there with the stuff and everything, everyone took their stuff and, I was just planning on chilling a little. He says, man, we started playing hacky sack inside. And he's like, it was a little bit of tight space, right? We were all inside. And so one of the girls that were there recommended that we go outside, because we have more space. It was like a nice day. And as soon as they said that, Ace then tells me, he said, dude, Manny screams at them, we're not going outside, you stupid fucking bitch. Like some wild shit, bro. I think I like audibly gasped. I was like, oh, like, cause dude, that's a wild reaction to be asked to do one of the most chill things in the world. Like, he has to have broken a world record for being like this aggressive in a hacky sack circle, man. Like, but Ace also informs me, he said, man, that wasn't even all. He said about 20 minutes later, man, he started geeking even harder. He's telling everyone that he needs to go home right the fuck now. Man, everyone in the house is like, no, man, you are not in a state to be driving anywhere, man. He keeps kind of ramping himself up, getting like super aggressive, and Ace is just trying to get him to chill out. Ace is like, man, why don't you just relax for a few minutes and I'll take you home myself, man. Like, Benny then starts to like freak out even harder, saying like, saying to Ace, no, your car isn't fast enough. It'll take like 2 hours to get back to the house. Keep in mind they're at a friend's house that was literally less than 5 minutes away. No joke. So like somehow they convince him to take the ride and get back home. So Ace drops him off and he goes inside and he kind of like, this was also another note I forgot to mention earlier when Manny was telling me his like kind of side of things. He said that when he was in his bedroom, he pretty much tried to go straight to bed, and he's been on it for maybe like 2.5 hours. Like he's like, peeking up probably, like, I don't know. But like, he tried to go to bed and he said he looks at his alarm clock and it was like predator symbols. he tried to go to sleep for like 5 minutes, and he said he think he was asleep for like 2 hours, and he's like, well, what time is it? He looks at his, like, those old school like red alarm clocks type of shit. It was like one of those, and he said he'd look at it and it was like predator numbers. Like, so a little backstory on my old roommate Manny here. He was the least liked roommate out of all of us together. Like, we all had problems with him. He was just mad, entitled, treated a lot of people shitty for like not much reason. We were kind of acquaintances in high school, but I don't think he really liked me in high school that much. He's a little more accepting, after a couple of friends and him, we all decided to move in together. He kind of became so much of a problem amongst all of us that it was like the most therapeutic thing in the world is like the other roommates and I would get together and, when he's at work or class and just like talk about how shitty he was, dude. We just had to vent because the rest of us were like, we're pretty reasonable for the most part. Like, dude wouldn't clean, man. Like, he like would never like, wash any type of dishes or anything like that, dude. Sometimes he like, we'd cycle duties in the house, so all the shit wouldn't pile up on, all the responsibilities wouldn't pile up on like a couple of people. And he just like would refuse, it just made him an awful roommate because we knew if we had to ask him to do even like the most basic thing, it was just like pulling teeth, man. And at this time, he was also kind of the type of guy that if we, the rest of us were wanting to do something, or we like something we're like talking about, and let's say he just didn't like it, wasn't his cup of tea, instead of just being like, oh, whatever, he would just like kind of try to make fun of us and make fun of the thing that we're trying to do or something that we liked. And he would act like he's joking, but he's being fucking serious. But one of the most self-defeating things I heard this guy say, one time, me and another roommate, I think it's like a perfect example of what I just said before. We were looking at some shoes online, shopping around, like looking at stuff. And he just like kind of barges in and he's like, man, I'm never going to be wearing shoes until I have a wife that can clean all my socks for me. That's why I wear flip-flops. And dude, bro wore flip-flops 24/7. Like, you could be fucking 8 inches of snow outside. Which, I pretty regularly had a girlfriend or like a girl I was hanging around, and I knew with that mindset, he's never going to find anyone. Also, to kind of bring more detail into the not cleaning situation, he also had the dog too, right? And the dog was a long hair, big dog. Like, he was a good size. But, he would never vacuum up after him. Like, up to the stairs up to his room, we all had carpet. And, man, it was like 7 layers of, like, dog hair just caked on the stairs, man. And he just, like, refused to vacuum it up. And at one point, we even had, like, an insane flea infestation because he would refuse to get, like, the proper, like, flea medication for his dog. So our house was just we had carpet, too, so it was just a fucking pain to, like, deal with those fleas. I even remember some point later, he had switched rooms with another roommate, or maybe someone else had moved in. Anyway, he was switching rooms, and whoever was going into the room before him, I was helping him kind of clean up a little bit, and he had one of those little window ACs, You're supposed to kind of clean those filters out, like, at least, like, once every now and then. Man, I popped that off because I was always, like, coughing and sneezing as soon as that AC would turn on and I was just in that room. Man, we popped that off. And that filter was like Kevlar. It was like a wool hand-woven Peruvian like blanket, man. And I'm like, dude, no wonder my lungs are collapsing every time this motherfucker kicks on. So anyways, we'll like fast forward a little bit to after that, after he had his trip, to about like 2 months after. We all kind of start noticing a little change in his mood, He just kind of started becoming more chill when it came to like even just regular interaction. Like all the dickhead stuff he was doing, like pretty much came to a halt. Manny starts cleaning up more. He starts being like more accepting and chill, just more pleasant. One day I was like like blindsided by this. I was playing games, gaming. He asked if I was hungry. I'm like, yeah, but I was like, super poor at the time, and I was just like rocking some ham sandwiches and some bullshit, And he's like, yo, bro, like let's go get some McDonald's. He's like, it's on me or whatever. And I'm like, yo, like he would never do stuff like that before. He even started like suggesting cool stuff like going to certain like shows and like concerts and stuff. Hell, he even vacuumed the 7 layers of dog hair on the stairs. Like he was picking up after himself. He was handling the house responsibilities when it was his turn without any pushback. He even helped out with the flea situation, started getting his dog the proper medication, threw in on treatment stuff. It was crazy. And the other roommates started realizing that we weren't getting together at all to really vent about him. Or at least at this point, that's what I was thinking of myself. So one night, Manny is at work, and, the rest of us are hanging out the front porch, having some beers, just bullshitting. And one of the roommates is like, man, y'all notice Manny is way more chill after that bad trip? And we all just kind of looked at each other like our minds had been read. Like we felt exactly the same. We were laughing about it and everything. But so anyway, Manny rolls up after getting off work, and we're like, "Yo, come grab you a Keystone and chill, man." It was like a nice, cool summer night. So we're chatting about our day and everything, and Manny just comes out of the blue and he goes, "Yeah, I used to feel like a real big asshole up until I had that bad trip." We all looked at each other again and we were like, dude, we were literally just talking about that, man. Dude, we all laughed, man. It's wild. Dude, we all remained pretty good friends after that. But hey, I need to know if any of y'all have had something similar like this happen. I mean, I know I've heard ayahuasca, having radical change to people's maybe personalities and perspectives, but man, comment down below and share because I want to check out some other experiences y'all have. Anyway, that's my story of how a bad trip changed my roommate for the better. Well, until next time, take it easy, gamers.